Hi, welcome to another video. My name is Cara, this is Bianca Reads, and we have a new filming location today. I've been playing around with different ways to make this new location work because this is a new bookcase that I recently obtained and decorated and put my books on. So I wanted to film in front of it, but I wasn't sure how to make it work, so I've been playing around with a couple of different ideas, but I think I like this distance from you. Let's get started. This is going to be a bit of a crazy TBR, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about many of the books that are on it. This is a 99 book TBR, but don't be alarmed. I will not be reading 99 books in October. This is just kind of like a conglomeration of every book I think fits the spoopy vibes. And if you've seen a previous October TBR from me before, you know my spoopy vibe idea is kind of loose and broad. It's a broad category, but kind of in general I want things that are dark. They can be dark contemporary, dark fantasy, horror, thriller. Those are the vibes. Or like witchy, werewolves, vampires, those kind of things. So things that just like kind of fit the vibe in my opinion. So we'll start off the month playing Bookopoly deal, as we always do, and then I will talk to you about a few buddy reads I've got going on and book club books, and then we'll jump into the rest of this 99 book TBR. So let's jump into Bookopoly deal. Cash. Cash. Deal breaker. Ew. So we did draw out the deal breaker card, which means we get to take away one prompt at the end. I'm doing it at the end so we can decide what to do. Oh. So first up we drew a wild card, red or a yellow, which is a contemporary or an other genre, which in this Bookopoly deal counts as romance, historical, mystery, thriller, that kind of thing. So I decided to go for Our Last Echoes, which is a contemporary mystery thriller. This is by Kate Alice Marshall, and it's kind of a loose sequel to Rules for Vanishing, which is a horror thriller with very like dark fantasy elements. This one I don't believe has as much fantasy, but maybe it does. It might have ghost stuff. But it's in the 70s, 31 residents of Bitter Rock disappeared, and in 2003 so did my mother, the main character's mother, and now she's going to find out what happened to her and the ghosts of the thing. I loved Rules for Vanishing. I thought it was a really well done horror, and it's told in mixed media format, like with interviews and stuff, and so is this one. And it's kind of linked in that the same investigators are following the two cases. So what it looks like under the dust jacket. I can't wait to read this. So this is my first Bookopoly deal pick. Oh. Then we drew a wildcard orange purple, which is a YA or an adult speculative fiction, so fantasy, sci-fi, that kind of thing. And for that I decided to read a book I've been trying to read for a few months, and it didn't arrive in the first month, and then I just didn't get around to it in the second month, and that is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. This is a dark academia fantasy from what I'm aware. It's young adult. And I have been told many times to read Victoria Lee's work because it's supposed to be absolutely stunning and deal with a lot of trauma and stuff like that, like getting over trauma. And this is like boarding schools with dangerous vibes. I don't know, everyone's raving about this. I think I'm gonna love it. It seems right up my alley. I love this cover, and I thought it would really work for this prompt, and I really want to read it. Then we have a wildcard station or utilities, which is a 2020 release or a 2019 backlist. So I decided to go for a 2020 release. And for that, I'm going to be reading Ghostwood Song by Erica Waters, which is, I believe it's, Erica Waters might be an Indigenous author, and Indigenous American author. And this is a lot about like the deep South Appalachia kind of stuff, I believe. Don't hold me to that. I don't know a whole lot of details, but there's a fiddle made of secrets, a song to raise the dead. I might listen along to this on audiobook because I do have access to the audiobook. And I don't know, it just looks so freaking good, and I've heard lots of people rave about it, so I'm really excited to read it. And she has a new book that's recently released that I would like to get to. That might come up later in this video. We did it, folks. And then we drew Waterworks, which is a 2019 backlist, first in the series. And for that, I'm going to read A Curse of Ash and Embers by Jo Spurrier. This is the first book in a witchy fantasy series, Tales of the Blackbone Witches, book 1. People were talking about this when it came out, but I haven't heard much about it since. I think I got this second hand, or at least on a really good deal. And I am interested to read it. I don't know much about the details of it, but it is witchy, and I think I will really like it. But this is the book I'm going to deal breaker, so it doesn't mean I don't technically have to read it in the month. I'm keeping it on this huge TBR because it fits the vibes, but if I don't get around to it, it doesn't penalize me for Bookopoly deal. So this is the one I have deal breaked. So now quickly time to discuss a few buddy reads I'm doing and my TBR project. So, or specific vlog that I'm going to be doing. So first off, April and I are going to be buddy reading Mistborn's Secret History, which is in the Arcanum Unbounded collection. This is like a 150 page, I think, novella in the Mistborn world that takes place, I think, before the events of the first book, or between the first and, or somewhere during the first book. I can't remember exactly. But I think it's before the first book, but it has spoilers for later in the series. So it's something that I recommend you read after you've fully caught up on Mistborn. And we've just finished listening to reading the most, I mean, I haven't because I haven't read it yet, but it's one of my last books for September, is the most recent Mistborn Era 2. So it's time for us to read Mistborn: A Secret History. And it's probably the one thing in this whole TBR that doesn't fit the vibes, but I need to read it anyway. And luckily it's a novella, so it'll happen quickly. It's going to be like one of my first reads of the month. Next to the TBR video, the little video plan. I normally have this rule where, since maybe the past 5 years or so, I have told myself I can't buy more than one book from an author unless it's by accident. Sometimes it happens by accident. But I can't make a conscious effort to like collect a series. I have to like read one at a time and buy the next one once I've read it. And that's so I don't just end up with a bunch of books I never get to. But I broke my rule this past month for one particular author, and I think I can get away with it because my normal problem is I can't marathon series, so it's never going to happen anyway. But these are not a series. These are a collection of standalones that have been rejacketed for the author this year. I think some of them are new, but some of them are rejackets. And there's 3 of them. I mean, one I already had, but it's tying into the video, and I bought 2 more this past month. They all loosely fit the vibes, and I'm going to do a specific reading vlog for these. And these are the most 3 recent publications by Silvia Moreno Garcia. So the beautiful ones I already had on my shelf. This is a magical fantasy. And I think it's like romantic and gothic. No, not gothic, like lush and like Pride and Prejudice-y. I think it's like a historical gentle fantasy, like telekinesis and stuff like that. And it is a romance, and it is historical, but I think set in South America, because most of her stuff is, so I would guess this also is, as she is Mexican, the author. So I assume this is also set in Mexico, but I'm not 100% sure. And that's the first one. I've already read Mexican Gothic and Gods of Jade and Shadow previously, so they're not going to be in this specific video, but these three are beautiful ones. Then we have Certain Dark Things, which is a vampire lore reimagining set in modern day Mexico City, I believe. I think it's going to be amazing. They're all relatively short, like they're all like just over like 250, 300, under 300 pages. This is like less than 250 pages. So I think I'll be able to fly through this really quickly. And the third one is Velvet Was the Night, which is a crime noir story, also set in Mexico City in the 70s. I freaking love noir stories, but I don't read them often enough. This one is like, yeah, 280 pages. So yeah, they're all relatively short, and I think I can get through them pretty quickly. So there will be like a week-long reading vlog where I'm reading all three of those. I think they're different enough vibes. Like, she's described on one of the back of these books as like a chameleon writer. So like everything is very different, and I love that. Like Mexican Gothic and Gods of Jade and Shadow were nothing like each other, and they don't seem like any of these either, and all of these seem very distinctly different, and I think I'm gonna love them all. So I think I could read them back to back and still have a great time. So I'm gonna be reading those in a reading vlog. One other thing I definitely will be reading during the month is my polyamory plot hole book clubs book. This is a book club I host with KJ from Books with Bookish KJ, and Dylan from Cosmic Book Nook, and we read polyamorous books every month. And this coming month we'll be reading Iron Widow by Jiren J. Zhao. I think is how you pronounce her name, I think. I tried to practice, but I'm not good at pronouncing. My mouth doesn't get around names very well, but I'm trying. This is a sci-fi polyamorous story. It's not a romance, it's a sci-fi about like about mecha, and the mecha are based on Chinese mythology creatures, and then it's like a misogynistic world, how the men and the women engage with the mecha, and it's all about breaking down those barriers. I think it sounds amazing. It's probably the other one thing that doesn't really fit the vibe, but we're going to be reading it anyway, and I think it's going to be fantastic. It is dark, it's just less spoopy, more just dark, but I think it'll be great regardless. And then some graphic novels I'm planning to read. I have 8. I only have 7 of them here. The other one is still at the library. I have to pick it up. But we have Descender volumes 3, 4, 5 and 6, and this is a dark and gory sci-fi about a boy who is a robot that has a mysterious code that may be linked to these giant robots that came and destroyed the world. I also have here Deadly Class, which is one I'm missing one of, but it's also 3 through 6. I think I'm just missing 4, but it's ready to pick up at the library. I just haven't done it yet because we've been in lockdown. So 3, 4 which I don't have yet, 5 and 6, and these are like a gothic like, how do I describe them? I've read the first 2, but they're hard to describe. These people were all assassins, but they're like kind of dead too. It's been a while since I read the first 2, but I really enjoyed them, so I'm gonna keep going. There's a lot now, but I am gonna read 3 through 6 of those as well, so I will definitely get to all of those in the month because they should be easy breezy. I'll probably read them in between those things we've already talked about to like keep me fresh and engaged. Okay, now let's dive into this huge stack beside me, and I also have a bunch of audiobooks and ebooks and things I haven't received yet, so there's a lot to talk about, but I'm gonna dive through these pretty quickly. I won't give you much detail about any of them because there's a lot, but I might give you like a 1-sentence summary. First off, a few things that I'll be hauling in this most recent September haul. Hello cat. We have All These Bodies by Kenda Blake. This is a thriller. A gruesome killer, 16 bodies completely drained of blood, one impossible explanation. She's the author of the 3 Dark Crowns series, which I really liked, and she also wrote Anna Dressed in Blood, which I haven't read but got good reviews. We also have My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, which is a slasher, adult slasher. And I believe this is like based on horror films. I loved his book Last Final Girl. or some, I think it was called, what was it called? It wasn't called that because that's the other one. It was a novella. I can't remember what it was called. He wrote a novella. It was a Final Girls novella. Maybe, I can't remember what exactly it was called, but it's a Final Girls novella. And this seems like a further development of that idea, but in maybe a more mature, not mature, but like more developed, darker form. And I really loved that other book of his, so I'm really excited to read this. Stephen Graham Jones is an a Native American author. Then we also have How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao, which is a dark academia murder mystery set in a school, where it says a modern gossip girl for the BIPOC set. I'm really excited to read this. I was meaning to read this in September and it just didn't happen. I didn't get to it, but it's not very long, so I'm excited to, I think I will try and get to this one for sure. Next up we have Conference of Birds by Ransom Riggs, which is the 5th Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children book. This is kind of a shorter one, and then the next one after this was out, so I needed to get to this at some point. It just hasn't happened. I've had it for a while. This series is a like horror fantasy following, it's more fantasy, but it has all these like pictures of I don't know, why is there no more popping up? I'm skipping all of them. But it's all about like things that don't quite make sense, and these are all like actual photographs that the author collated, and yeah, they're all like, there's a movie, you should have heard about it. Then we have Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Booley, which is a murder mystery dealing with the Ojibwe community, where there's like a murder on the reservation or near the reservation and a bunch of drug related deaths, but the main character's trying to investigate what's going on. Then we have Small Favors by Erin A. Craig, which is a like isolated town horror. Her first book was a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, and it was good, but it wasn't great. But this might be good because it's very different. We'll see. We have Dead Dead Girls by Nikiza Afia, which is a Harlem Renaissance mystery. So it's a murder mystery set in Harlem Renaissance. I'm so excited. We also have The Case for Jamie by Brittany Cavallaro, which is the 3rd book in the Charlotte Holmes series, which is a retelling of Sherlock and Watson, but we're following the real descendants of Sherlock and Watson, Charlotte and Jamie, and they're amazing. They're murder mysteries and they're so fun. We also have Sorrowland by River Solomon, which is a it says a triumphant genre-bending novel. Following a young woman through a nightmarish yet recognizable landscape as she attempts to create a new life for herself and her children. I think it's not magical realism. What is the word? Fantabulism. And my friend Erin absolutely loved it, so I'm reading it on her recommendation. Plus, I love River Solomon anyway. We also have The Deep by Alma Katsu, which is a horror retelling of the Titanic. Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco, which is a dark fae fantasy, I believe. Oh, the 2 main characters are witches who exist secretly among women. And there's Princes of Hell. So maybe it's not fae. Witches and Princes of Hell. Fantasy. It's a duology, I believe, and the second one has recently come out. Down Comes the Night, which is by Alison Saft, which is a queer gothic romance fantasy. We also have Lobezonna by Romina Garbo, which is a modern werewolf story focusing on immigration and deportation across the US border. Then we have We Were Restless Things by Cole Nagamatsu, which I believe is a dark contemporary. I'm not really sure the exact plot or themes, but it might have a few magical elements. I'm not 100% sure. I know that Kayla from Books and Lala read it, and she doesn't tend to read straight dark contemporary, so it probably has some magical bibs and bobs. Forest of Souls by Lorianne Lee, which is a dark fantasy, as you can see. A Wicked Magic by Sasha Lawrence, witchy vibes. The Gracier by Kim Liggett, which is a dystopian, a YA dystopian, I think, yes. Around reproductive rights and things like that. Prelude for Lost Souls by Helene Dunbar, which has I've read another book by her, We Are Lost and Found, which I really enjoyed, and was a contemporary. This I think is a ghost story, but I'm not really sure 100%. There's music and stuff in it, I'm not sure. This Coven Won't Break, which is the sequel to These Witches Won't Burn by, Won't Burn, I think, by Isabel Sterling, which is a contemporary witchy story, queer romance. What Big Teeth by Rose Zaba, which is obviously a Red Riding Hood inspired horror. The Dead in the Dark by Courtney Gould, which is a ghosty mystery contemporary queer, and it's like a ghost hunting story. We also have Mercury Boys by Chandra Prasad, which is a dark academia fantabulism where these girls can meet boys in their dreams, but it ends up in murder and mayhem. The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. Witches. Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas. This is a Peter Pan retelling, but dark. Like really dark. The Taking of Jake Livingston, which is a horror. Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Bayron, which is a dark fantasy. Cinderella retelling. For the Wolf by Hannah Witten, which is a Red Riding Hood retelling, dark fantasy. Whispers Underground by Ben Aranovich, which is the third book in the PC Grant series, which is a murder mystery fantasy. I've been enjoying it. We also have The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold, which is a dark contemporary thriller. The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed, which is a contemporary about girls trying to like bring justice to sexual assault cases in their school, I believe. Other Words for Smoke by Sarah Marie Griffin, which is a haunted house story, I believe. Daughter of the Burning City, which by Amanda Foody, which is a ghosty circus festival freak show kind of story. What the Woods Keep by Cartier de Becerra, which is a dark contemporary thriller, I think. The Reckless Afterlife of Harriet Stoker by Lauren James, which is obviously a like Bram Stoker story, afterlife. Yeah. A Secret History of Witches by Louisa Morgan, another witchy book. All Our Hidden Gifts by Carolyn O'Donoghue, which focuses around tarot. Yeah, I think it's like a dark contemporary. House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland, which is a dark fantasy, I think, with two sisters that are weird. I'm not sure. Bridge of Souls by Victoria Schwab, which is the third Cassidy Blake series, which is a ghost hunting kind of story. She sees ghosts. And Tales of the Hinterland by Melissa Albert, which is a collection of short stories that belong to the Hazelwood series, which is a weird series that I weirdly enjoy. And this is 12 original fairy tales from that world, which makes sense if you've read it. That's all the things I own physically. Now let's jump into the big list of things that I don't. I either don't yet or I have on ebook or audiobook. So first off we have Mem by Bethany C. Morrow, which is a sci-fi dystopian. The Suffering by Rincha Peko, which is a ghost horror book. It's a sequel. The first one was The Girl in the Well, I think. It's based on the same mythology that The Ring is based off. My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Obviously that's kind of the deal. Dark Waters by Catherine Arden, which is a middle grade horror book that I'm really excited to get around to. It's the third in the series. Mrs. Death by Selena Godin, which is a magical fabulous death as personified kind of story. It's pretty short. I have this on audiobook. The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik, dark fantasy. A Dark and Starless Forest by Sarah Hollowell, which is also a dark magical fantasy, I think. The Lost Girls by Sonia Hartle, which is a vampire story. The Girls Are Never Gone by Sarah Glenn Marsh. This looks like zombies, but I'm not really sure. The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling will be a horror because that's what Caitlin Starling does, but I'm not sure the exact plot of this, but I've heard amazing things. The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling is a witchy romance. A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, but it's a novella. I'm not sure the exact details. Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson is a dark fantasy. It's probably like the most borderline of the spoopy vibes here. Summer Suns by Lee Mandello is like a horror fantasy romance, I believe. Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Core is a full out horror. The Witch's Wolves by Ellie Mae McGregor is a tiny little erotic romance, but it involves werewolves, I believe, so I'm excited for it. The Murders of Molly Southbourne by Tade Thompson, which is a sci-fi thriller, also a novella. The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, which is a dark academia fantasy murder story. Into the Journey Deep by Mara Grant, which is a mermaid horror. And Rolling in the Deep is the prequel, and I think they could be read in either order. So I'm just going to randomize and see if either of them pop up. The Library of the Dead by T.L. Huchu, which is a dark academia horror, I believe. Lagoon by Nydia Okorafor, which is a like Creatures of the Deep horror, I believe. Hench by Natalie Zena Walshots, which is a superheroes, but they're causing damage and destruction, and it's like a revenge plot against superheroes, I believe. The Factory Witches of Lowell by C.S. Mallarich. I know nothing except it's witches. Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova, which is a obviously like a bruja witchy kind of story. Zombie Bake Off, which is another Stephen Graham Jones, obviously a zombie story. I think it'll be funny. Lakewood by Megan Giddings, which is a dark black horror, if that makes sense. The House in the Dark of the Woods by Laird Hunt, which is a like creepy the woods are coming to get you kind of story. Like, is it real? Is it in their heads? When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole, which is a dark thriller. Bewitch by Paige McKenzie and Nancy Olin, which I'm gonna guess is a witch book. The Last Wish, which is by Andrzej Sapkowski, which is the first Witcher book. I don't own this, but my housemate does, so if this comes up on my randomization, I'll steal it off her. They Never Learn by Lane Fargo, which is a dark academia trying to get back at a like corrupt professor-student dynamic, like I think. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, which is a sci-fi horror. The Strange Case of the Alchemist Daughter by Theodora Goss, which is a historical gothic story. No Gods, No Monsters by Cadwell Turnbull, which was also recommended to me by Erin, and this is weird. That's all I know about it, but that's what Erin and I have in common. Your Guide to Not Getting Murdered in a Quaint English Village by Maureen Johnson, which is I think just a fun little like coffee table book, but I'm gonna get it if this comes up randomly. I'm gonna get the ebook. I think I will find it hilarious. White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson, which is a haunted house thriller, I think. Threadneedle by Kari Thomas, which is a dark magic fantasy. The Inheritance of Volkita Divina by Zoraida Cordova, which is a dark magical realism, I believe. In the Watchful City by S. Chuyi Lu, I think. Apologies, I needed to look that up and I entirely forgot. This is a dystopian. The River Has Teeth by Erica Waters. This is the newest release from Erica Waters, and I have access to this on audiobook. I don't know the plot, but I think it's going to be fun. It looks dark. And those are all the 99 books on Liz Stevia. There was 100, but one of them actually doesn't come out in Australia till next year, so I want to get the physical copies. I'm just gonna wait till that comes out. But yes, there it is. It's a lot, and you can understand why I didn't go into any detail. This is a long TBR, and I literally said like nothing about most of these. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you want to see my progress and see what I ended up picking, I think I'm gonna do reading vlogs throughout the month, so keep an eye out. I will obviously do a dedicated reading vlog for the Sylvia Marina Garcia books, and I might do a dedicated reading vlog for Iron Widow. We'll see, but I probably will also just do general vlogs where you will see what I picked out of all these, but regardless, you will see it in my wrap up. And my goal is to read a lot, obviously not all of this, but a lot. I can't read 99 books in a month, but I could read like 50 if I really pushed. So that's what I'm trying to do, and we'll see how I go. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye!